Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and I'm about to throw so much War of the Spark goodness right at your face you will not be able to handle it. But before we do that, you know that little bell below the video? You can click that and it immediately notifies you whenever we have a new video. Also, it helps the channel out a ton, so if you could just, take a second, give that little bell a click, I'll wait right here. Yep, just waiting. Okay, I'm impatient. Let's talk about previews. War Screecher is 2 mana for a 1/3 bird with flying. You can pay 6 mana and tap it, and other creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. The reason we're talking about this card is that it represents the idea that limited games can go very long. A 1/3 flyer for 2 is basically nothing, but 6 mana to anthem your team? That's a ton of mana and obviously not something you're going to be doing for a long time, which means it was designed as a way to reward playing for the long game, which means that it's definitely possible. We haven't seen a large amount of the set yet, but I'm starting to think that with so many walkers and so much amass, we might be in for a long, average limited game. To further support that, Bulwark Giant was just previewed. A whole 6 mana for a 3/6 that enters the battlefield and gains you 5 life. Solid defender, gets you back some life, huge toughness. It's all about interpreting with the information we have, and right now, white commons are looking to slow the game down big time. Lazotep Plating is 2 mana for an instant, amass 1. You and permanents you control gain hexproof until end of turn. Now this isn't heroic intervention, but it's pretty dang good, blanketing your entire team, protecting them from targeted removal for a turn, and protecting yourself from targeted discard effects and the like. Lazotep Plating is one of the better amass cards we've seen so far, and at instant speed, it means you can cast this whenever you want, create a 1/1 army, make your army bigger, or just save something important. Either way, you're getting 2 effects in 1 card for 2 mana at instant speed. I really like this card and I think it's being a little overlooked right now. If blue-black zombies or blue-black zombie army becomes a thing, Lazotep Plating might be able to see constructed play. Affordable, flexible, good. Teferi's Time Twist is 2 mana for an instant. Exile target permanent you control. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. If it enters the battlefield as a creature, it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. This is the perfect time for this kind of card. Resetting your planeswalkers that can only go down is a pretty big deal, especially in limited. And the Time Twist being common means that getting copies won't be all that difficult. It does say you can exile any target permanent you control, so you have the pick of the lot. Enchantment, walker, land, artifact, whatever you want. The Time Twist is a sweet way to avoid removal, reset a walker, or simply get more enter the battlefield value off of an amassed creature. Great timing for a card like this. Bane Hound is 1 black mana for a 1/1 Nightmare Hound with lifelink and haste. Wait, what? This is 1 mana and it comes with 2 keywords? You get to gain life right away? Giving this thing lifelink is one thing, see Healer's Hawk, but haste? You can be at 21 before your opponent has a chance to do anything. And I know you might think I'm being a little too dramatic, but this is an obvious example of power creep. I never would have guessed we'd ever get a card like this with haste at 1 mana and an additional powerful mechanic at the common rarity. I think that's what gets me, it's common. Craziness. Bane Hound will make a fine limited filler card, but more than anything, it just represents how far the game has come power-wise. Invading Manticore is 6 mana for a 4/5 zombie Manticore, great creature type. When it enters the battlefield, amass 2. So we're finally starting to see the common and uncommon amass cards, and I'm pretty excited about it. Amass is going to be a dynamic mechanic in War of the Spark Limited, and I think the Invading Manticore is a great example of the mechanic's average power. 6 mana is a lot, but you're getting a 4/5 and a 2/2, or a 4/5 and a +2/+2 zombie army. One of the more expensive amass-related cards, this is the scale we're looking at. Comparatively, look at Lazotep Reaver, 2 mana for a 1/2 and it amasses 1 when it enters the battlefield. Opposite ends of the amass spectrum. I think we can expect to see a littering of amass creatures in blue, black, and red that end up somewhere on the spectrum. Amass is going to be a real limited mechanic, especially considering just how many common amass cards we've seen so far. Keep on the lookout for more, because the more amass cards we see, the more legitimate the mechanic is as a limited archetype. Deathsprout is 1 of anything 2 black and 1 green for an instant. Destroy target creature, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. That art is powerful, my goodness. Seb McKinnon's truly insane. Talking power-wise, this is absolutely a bomb unlimited. 4 mana for a removal spell and a ramp/fixing spell is already pretty dang good, but then instant speed on top of it? Deathsprout is a bit push. Limited first pick easily, but also standard playable as long as there's something to ramp up to or fix into that makes this worth playing over something like Vraska's Contempt. Deathsprout has competitive legs, just needs the right shell. I'm thinking a black-green based mid-range or control deck with a huge top end that splashes a 3rd color that can utilize the fixing on this card. Regardless, it's solid, great artwork, strong effect, death and ramp at the same time. That's so flavorful. Role Reversal is 2 blue and 1 red for a sorcery. Exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a type. Wow, now this is interesting. Pretty cheap card for the effect, letting you swap basically whatever you want. You can swap a token for Niv Mizzet. It doesn't say non-lands, so you can swap one of your basic lands for an Azcanta or a Danto. How brutal is that? Might be worth playing in the sideboard of a control deck, actually. The only real downside is that it's sorcery speed, but besides that, pretty easy to cast in a blue-red control deck. You can also swap Planeswalkers in Limited when the uncommon ones get to low loyalty because they can only go down. The possibilities are near endless. Relatively cheap and powerful. If we're talking beyond constructed, Zedru and Commander must love this. Like, that deck doesn't get a lot of goodness too often because the cards that are good there are so weird, but this one, pretty dang good there. Enjoy the present, Zedru players. Tolsimir, Friend of Wolves, is 2 of anything, 2 green and 1 white for a 3/3 legendary creature elf scout. When Tolsimir enters the battlefield, create Voja, Friend to Elves, a legendary 3/3 green and white wolf creature token. Whenever a wolf enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life, and you may have that creature fight up to 1 target creature an opponent controls. Whoa! Tolsimir did not come to mess around. 5 mana with heavy color requirements brings you 2 3/3s, you gain 3 life, and you get a removal spell. I mean, this is a lot for 5 mana, but more important than all of this, Tolsimir is back. Elves live a long time. Tolsimir has been around the block, like all the way back to original Ravnica. Talk about a blast from the past, wowza. Super push for limited. It'll make a solid wolf commander if that deck wants to exist. It might foreshadow more wolves in the future, which would be cool. And it seems pretty decent for standard, although it will be fighting Tristani for that 5 mana Selesnya spot. Either way, a real sick card. Another day of previews down. What do you think of Tolsimir or Deathsprout or the sweet Role Reversal? Personally, I think we're getting cards that appeal to all types of players, and that's what I want to see. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave them in the comments and we'll talk about it. I gotta know what you're thinking, and be sure to stay tuned to the channel for the latest and most reliable War of the Spark preview information you could ever need. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com, where the Spark booster boxes are pre-ordering right now on TCG Player for $97 each. Way cheaper than a lot of places if you don't have a local game store, or yours is charging way too much. I got you back right here. Click the link on the screen. You can pre-order your boxes to be delivered to your door when the set's released, and by clicking the link, you help the channel out a ton. Plus, for a limited time, for the first 60,000 people who click the link, you will get a free, mint condition, Alpha Time Walk. That's right, for free. Grade 11. From BGS, it's a time walk. Get it now while supplies last. Yeah, for free. Yeah, enjoy.